Developmental trauma can look different depending on the kid. Some of the kids we serve reject our connection, and some smother us with affection, and some act like they know everything, and others change personalities completely depending on how we show up. And these different presentations, they might require different responses, but they all actually come from the same place, which is something that I call the belonging wound. This early wounding can present differently, but if we know the wound that we're addressing, it can help us remain empathetic and develop the connection that we all crave, right? So I'm going to roll that intro, and then we're going to dive into an episode on the belonging wound and what we can do to help heal that for children.
I'm Rebecca Britt, and this is the Stable Moments Podcast. I started this podcast to understand from all perspectives how we can help end the foster care crisis. The overwhelming response was we need to support our local communities. Unwanted, abandoned, orphaned children are the community's responsibility. We must support, guide, love, invest, raise up generations that will nurture, love, and support their own children to end this crisis. So the purpose of this podcast is to build an army of people that are interested and willing to take responsibility of our foster youth and who are supportive of foster and adoptive families. This is the on-ramp for people who want to get involved but might not know where to start. I want this to be a place where community members feel like they can make a difference, where they feel good enough to make that difference, and believe that they can be a big deal in the life of a child. Thanks for being part of our community. Together, we can end the foster care crisis.
Hi, welcome to the Stable Moments Podcast. Now, before we get started, if you want to know more about our one-on-one mentorship model that is trauma-informed, it involves community mentors with foster adopted children, then please go check out our free webinar at stablemoments.com/webinar. I would also love you to be a champion for this program. So if you know of a school, a community-based organization, a church that should launch a program for foster and adopted youth, please send that webinar to them. Again, it's at stablemoments.com/webinar. Okay, so what is the belonging wound? Okay, so we know that kids with developmental trauma have core feelings of worthlessness. So there's evidence to suggest that even a 3-month-old baby that's crying alone in its crib without its diaper being changed, without it being fed, and it's saying, please, somebody meet my needs, that baby starts to think that they must be the problem. They don't think, well, why isn't mom here? She should be feeding me. They think there is something inherently wrong with me, that I do not deserve to get my needs met. So that can happen at the fabric of their being, right? When they're just little tiny babies with abuse, neglect, abandonment. But it can also happen in households where you feel like you need to perform to belong. When you are told literally that you don't belong or that you shouldn't be here. When the community, the school is saying that your family's weird, your family is trash, you're dumb, you're not smart, you need to keep your hands to yourself. You need to say, we are actually all very much told when we are young that the fullness and wholeness of who we are doesn't belong, and that people would like us more when we are calm and respectful and easy to handle, right? Go with the flow. So it's pretty common to feel like you don't belong or that you need to alter yourself to belonging. Now, there's a difference between fitting in and belonging. So fitting in says, if I change my behavior, then I will be accepted. But belonging says, regardless of how I show up, if I show up as my true authentic self, there's already a place for me here. And kids with developmental trauma or who have experienced abuse, neglect, abandonment, they believe they don't belong anywhere. It is something that they know, actually. So it's not something that they've felt. It is something that they know in their core being, right? And that is why they're going to reject when people say, you do belong, or we want to accept you, or we thought of you, or you're a great kid. Those things are rejected because they believe that won't last, that you don't really believe that. If they showed up as their true self, or if you saw the fullness of them, or if you understood their whole story, you would change your tune. And at some point, you would also abandon them, reject them, tell them that they're bad. They can also hear redirections as you don't belong or you're not good enough. So if you just say like, oh, didn't do that right, or hey, make better choices to a kid that has a belonging wound, it can stab deep to their core, because it can say, I knew it. I knew I didn't belong. I knew that they hated me. It can go that drastic so that they protect themselves. So I want to go through some of the ways that this presents itself in mentorship sessions so that you can see that this might present itself in a whole bunch of ways, but that the core wound is the same, and our response may be different with the different way it presents, but it also is tending to that core wound. And when you know that, you can be more empathetic and get that connection that we so crave, but also actually heal this wound. Okay, so let's talk about how the belonging wound shows up. So in kid number 1, they may act like they don't need you, right? So they're going to come into their sessions and they're going to be like, you ain't anything. Like, I'm good. And everything that you try to connect with them, activities you try to do, getting to know them, they're kind of like, they're just not phased, and they'd rather do their own thing. And what you have to offer is stupid. And what you do, they don't care about. And they want to be left alone. Okay, this is a very normal response to a belonging wound, because they want to reject you before you reject them, right? So rather than them getting excited that you want to pour into them and then them getting hurt when you realize that you won't like them or that you're going to reject them, they would just rather reject you from the get-go and save themselves the pain, which feels counterintuitive, because it is so painful to live a life where you're rejecting everyone and rejecting that love and connection. But it has been way more devastating to them to think somebody's actually going to like me. Somebody might actually think I belong. Somebody's going to put their time and effort, investment in me. But when they've shown that person then leaves, or that person then gets mad at them, or that person rejects them, that's just too devastating for them. So their protection here is to just reject you from the get-go and set up that wall. Like, I don't need you. I don't want anything you're selling. I don't want anything that you're going to offer. I'm good. I'm good, buddy. Okay. And we do see that with kids in the Stable Moments program, it's usually around week 12. So 3 months of consistently showing up 1 week after another, even if you're just sitting there while they think that you're really not cool, is when kids' walls start to break down. They start to believe, oh my gosh, this dude's still here. This guy's still going to show up. So they start to trust that, okay, well, at least he's going to show up and maybe we can do some of these activities together. And you start to see a little bit of that hard exterior soften. And that's where the green light is for that connection to be able to build. So the I don't need you is a really clear and obvious presentation of a belonging wound that says, I don't belong, and I know that you're not going to make me feel like I belong, so I don't want anything to do with you, okay? Another presentation we have is the know-it-all. So this is a kid that you try to teach something to, or you try to say the directions to an activity to, and they're like, I know, I've already done this before. I've actually done 5 of these things. I know how to do this. They might even say that, like, lie about how proficient they are. Like, oh, at school, I've done this like so many times, or I got an award for this once. And that may not be true, but they are trying to prove that they know it all because they believe that that is what makes them belong. That's what makes them valuable. So if they show that they don't know, then why would you keep them around? If they show that they're not smart, they're not adequate, they're not proficient, then why would you want to be friends with them? Why would you want to hang out with them? So it's this exterior presentation of I already know, because not knowing leaves me really vulnerable, leaves me not valuable. And I don't think that you would want to teach me. I don't think you would take the time to invest in me. I don't think that if you saw how much I didn't know, how much I need to learn, you wouldn't want to stay for that level of investment, because it would be a big investment. And I don't think I'm worth that investment. So I would rather just say, I know, and struggle along pretending I know, than get vulnerable and say, oh, could you teach me? Okay? So with these kids, it is good to actually give them the sense that you already know that they know. I know that you're super smart. I know that you've done this like 10 times. I know that you already know how to do this. And like reading these instructions is silly. But I'm actually a little bit slow sometimes. And it's hard for me to get, it's hard for me to understand some of these things. So can we read this really slowly? And like, can you teach me how to do it? So blaming ourselves is one way the stable moments model always allows the child to be vulnerable, but you're really showing it by example, right? So if you can say like, oh, I'm slow, or I need things to be quiet, or I need things to be read really slowly to me, or sometimes I need to read things like 3 or 4 times before I get them. Sometimes I need to go back to the instructions a bunch of times while I'm doing it. I don't always get things. I'm sorry. I'm slowing you down because I know that you're super competent and I know that you know a lot. But can you help me? And then you're giving them an opportunity to teach you something. You're still giving them the value, like, oh my gosh, you have so much value because you're actually going to teach me to do this. But you're also not leaving them high and dry with like, okay, if you know, then teach me how to do it, because they're not going to know, right? So we still have an activity that's right there, or we have the instruction that's right there. So it's like, oh, like, can you help me read this? Because this is tough. And then you're giving them the content of what they're going to teach you, right? Because it's right in front of them. They just have to read it to you. So that's one way that we can let the know-it-all, but also build that connection in the relationship, and allow them to learn. And you are doing it in a way that they won't feel like they need to be super vulnerable. They'll feel like they can still be knowledgeable. And you might even be giving them like a leadership role in the relationship. Wow, you teach me so much. But because you've set that dynamic up, they start to feel confident in being vulnerable too. So there will be times, if you set this up in a way that you have shown by example how you have to get vulnerable, and you're like, I don't even know what we do. What do you think we should do during this? I know you know so much. So what? Oh man, I'm not doing nearly as good as you. They will start being like, well, actually, I'm not that good. And I think that we could maybe look this up on YouTube too, because I'm getting a little confused. It's like, because you've let your guard down and you've shown vulnerability, they're able to show vulnerability as well. Again, we're definitely still addressing the belonging wound. They want to know that them as a person not knowing everything would be considered valuable enough to stick around. But you need to show them how that's done by getting vulnerable yourself. All right. Then we have the people pleaser. So the people pleaser is going to try to figure out what the right answer is always. So if you ask them, what do you like? If you're doing the all about me activity, which is the activity that you create a collage of a snapshot of who they are. So this might be their favorite color, their favorite animal, their favorite food. So you're making those collages. These kids, these people pleasers will actually like look on your all about me board to see what you're putting, and they'll just put that. They are never allowed to actually be themselves, because themselves is bad. Themselves isn't worthy. Themselves is somebody that nobody would want. So they don't feel free to put pizza and black and aardvarks or like whatever that they would actually like to put on their their paper, which they may not even know because they may have been so not able to develop their strengths and interests that they literally don't know what they like. They gravitate to whatever they will make them safe, which is what the person in power, the authority figure in front of them, wants them to say. So they will look at your collage, and if you like pasta, they like pasta. If you like green, they like green. Because that's the right answer, and that's what will make you like them. And then you look at theirs and you're like, wow, we like all the same things. Like, you're so great. And they're like, cool, I figured it out. I just have to like what they like. I like to have the that experience. A people pleaser will also just try to preempt your needs. You'll notice that they might say, like, do you need water? Or they might try to choose activities based on what you like because they want to please. A lot of these kids have a hard time coming up with like an open-ended question. If you just say, what do you want to do? Or what do you like? It might really like put them, especially if they don't know a lot about you or they're not sure what the right answer is, they might kind of shut down or have a long stare of just like, oh my gosh, that was way too big for me. So with people pleasers, I think that you can do a lot more activities that aren't based on any right answers, and exploration activities where we do celebrate them choosing. And anytime you notice they choose something just naturally, like you're walking towards activities and they choose the beads bucket, you can say like, wow, like you chose beads today. That's awesome. Or laying out a bunch of cards that they might be meaningful moments cards. They might be cards that have colors on them. They might be cards that have animals on them. And we're like, we're just going to pick whatever card comes to mind, whatever card we like, right? And they can be face up or face down. And you choose a card and they choose a card. And then we're like, oh, like what stands out to you about this card? It helps us start to develop how we connect with things without there being a right answer or without you choosing first, right? There isn't a right answer. It's just like, how do we connect with green? How do we connect with red? What does red say to you? What does green say to you? And developing their own creative thought. And you can always just exemplify this by just saying, oh, well, green makes me think of trees. Green also makes me think of money. Green makes me think of the earth. That makes me feel happy and a little sad. Like, you can go as far as you want to with this, but it's really allowing for creative expression so that they can start developing their true identity, right? Their true answers, not related to the right answer or your answers. We also have the chameleon, which is very much the same, but this is a kid that will change who they are based on who's around. So if you come in and you are one way and you like to play and sing and get excited, their energy will be there. But if there's somebody that comes in that's very stern, they will adapt directly and become very stern. Okay? So you will notice this. It's very much like the people pleaser when a child is being a chameleon, or you'll notice they can even take on your attributes. Like if you're wearing glasses, they want to wear glasses. If you're holding your pen this way, they want to hold their pen this way. These are all desperate attempts to belong. You will like me if I wear what you wear. You will like me if I write the way you write. I belong if I can just be you. Okay? The All About Me game or activity is a great one to really start creating your own identity. And then, of course, we want to celebrate that child for whatever they come up with, which is their own decisions. Anything that they do that wasn't a direct reflection of what you did or who you are, but you can tell, no, this came from them. Like, I did not influence this at all. We want to celebrate that so that they know when you choose things, that's what makes me happy. That's what makes me excited. I like getting to know you. And I love to know like how we're different, because I don't want to hang out with me all day. I want to hang out with you, right? So the people pleaser and the chameleon are very much the same. Now, there's also the perfectionist. So the perfectionist is a kid that generally has a sense of like all is lost when something doesn't go right. So they are sitting there working on an activity and something happens and they're like, oh, like, I'm so stupid. I'm never going to get this right. You shouldn't have chose me to do this. Okay? And they are simply preempting the abandonment they think, or the criticism they think is about to come from you. So they jump to criticizing themselves, and they really feel like getting this right, winning at this, doing this project perfectly the first time is the way to gain value, to be seen as valuable and accepted into the group, right? So with a perfectionist, what we want to do is totally normalize making mistakes, right? And you can do this with yourself. Again, blaming yourself, forcing a mistake, like start drawing something inside the lines and then, oh, shoot, I went outside the lines. Oh, but it actually kind of looks cool now. I'm going to like turn this into a flower that this thing is holding, and sometimes our mistakes are really fun, right? And this thing would have been so boring if I hadn't made that mistake. Or sometimes mistakes make us learn. So creating an environment where mistakes are not only okay, but they are welcome. They are like their creativity. They are learning opportunities. And doing it over and over to the point where you're just showing the example of when I make mistakes, which I do all the time, I enjoy it. I enjoy learning from it. I enjoy seeing what's possible outside the book of what we're supposed to do, and showing them too that, hey, can we try again? Like, I know that was a bummer that didn't work out, but can we try again? You know, the perfectionist is one that even as adults we have, right? And we can be, let's say, at our workplace or our jobs, and we can make a mistake that immediately we think, is my boss going to be mad? Or I shouldn't have let that happen? Or, oh, I want to do well for this company. And what do we want to hear in those moments? We want our boss to be like, oh, we all make mistakes. Or, oh man, I didn't give you enough time to do that, did I? Or, hey, none of us are perfect here, or I made that same mistake, do not worry, right? We want somebody to say, you belong regardless, and we don't expect you to be perfect. And so that's really what you're going to want to do with your response is like, hey, we all make mistakes, but also I made that same exact mistake. You don't need to go to like, what did we learn, right? Because that can feel very punitive. But really just like, yeah, no worries. I would do the same thing. Yeah, who wouldn't have made that mistake? Like, I totally get that. Just think about how you would want to be responded to, and really think about like, it might be something really benign, really small to you, like coloring outside the lines. And you're like, dude, it's just like coloring outside the lines. Like, it's not that big of a deal. I would avoid saying things like it's not that big of a deal just because it is a big deal to them. They now feel like they are trash, that you are going to reject them, that they are not valuable, that they probably won't have a mentor next week. Okay? So if you see that they're really upset, then I would honor that and say, hey, I see that you're really upset. Hey, I noticed what you did. I color outside the lines all the time. And we have unlimited tries to get this right. So if you really wanted to make one that was perfect, let's just keep trying. We can do it every week until we get it exactly right. Like, if you want to do this right, I trust that you can do it. And if that's what means something to you, then we'll wait till we get it right. But also, I think what you created is amazing. And I love it. And I hope you think what I've done is good because I colored outside the lines a bunch of times. So whatever matters to them, if they really want to get it right, help them get it right. Let them know that they don't have to get it right to belong. Either way, you're going to be there with them and show up, right? Okay, now moving on to the attention seeker. I don't even like that name because I don't know. I think it has a really negative connotation to it. But we have kids that are overly affectionate, cross boundaries even. Like they come and hug you. They want to sit on your lap. They're very, I love you, love you, love you, love you. We can do everything together. You're going to love me. Again, this is them just saying, am I going to belong with you? Are you going to love me regardless? What's great about the kid that is overly affectionate or overly complimenting, I mean, they just think you're great. They're like, I love your pants and I love your shirt and I love your activity and I love how you do that. You start whistling and they're like, I love your whistling. You sing a little thing and they're like, you have a beautiful singing voice. And you're like, all right, dude, I'm not that great. Okay. So with these kids, it's really important that you show them that you love them, whether or not they love you and are showering you with affection, okay? So how we might do this is, if it's a physical affection, you can say, hey, I love connecting with you, but let's just connect with each other in a side hug. Like, let's say that they come over and they, give you a big hug all the time, and you would feel more comfortable if it was a side hug. Be like, I love connecting with you. This is how we're going to do it. I've also done this with smaller kids that really want to sit on my lap. And I feel like that's a slippery slope and inappropriate. So it feels more comfortable to me to have a kid sit on their own bottom next to me. But we still get to sit together and we get to work on something together. So you can say, I'm so excited to work on this with you. Let's both sit on our bottoms on this chair, but we'll sit right next to each other, okay? And I'm going to be here. I'm going to be here for you through the whole session, all right? So it's a quick redirection, but it's like, I'm still here, okay? You can also say, like, if they are showering you with compliments, you can just say, wow, you are really good at giving compliments. And you may hear some of their compliments and start telling them back what you really like about them. They may be just searching for connection and for you to also say you like their stuff. So let's say that they're like, I love your purse. I love your pants. I love how your hair is. I love your singing voice. And it's a lot of this. And you're like, thanks. Well, thank you. It is good to also give back, but give back in a relational way. So instead of saying, I love your pants, I love your shirt, say, you know what? I love how good you are at figuring things out. I love how thoughtful you are. I love how empathetic you are. I love that you show up here to hang out with me every Thursday. Okay, so make them relational and about who you've noticed they are, because they do belong and you've noticed their true self, that they're worthy and that they're smart and that they are good problem solvers and that they're empathetic and they're good at taking care of others. Things that you notice. Give back a compliment, but give back a compliment like that and see how that dance can go. You should see over time their need to compliment you and make sure that you know that they like you tapers a little bit, and that they are going to understand, wow, they're here for me, and they like me for things that aren't like my hair or whether I can do things good, or they like me for real human qualities, okay? So the common thread of all of these kids is they are seeking belonging, right? Or they just believe that they don't belong and they are not going to belong. It is intrinsic. And, we unknowingly reinforce this wound often because teachers, mentors, adults, parents, all of us, we will say or our actions will say, I like you better when you're calm. I like you better when you're respectful. I like you better when you're listening. If we are like, oh, calm down, regulate, those aren't the words to use. I'm not saying not to ever set boundaries, but our society is set up to pretty much constantly tell kids that the trueness and wholeness of who they are isn't accepted, that we would like them to change to be accepted in this world. So think about what you say, whether or not it's telling them they need to change to be accepted, or if it's saying, I accept you regardless of how you show up, because you are what I'm here for, not who you can be for me, not what you can get done, not how much value you can bring me, but I just want to hang out with you and get to know you. The good news and how we heal this belonging wound is not through convincing them that they're worth something, not telling them you belong here, but experience after experience after experience where you stick with them and you keep showing up. You especially stick with them when they make mistakes. You stick with them when they don't know it all. You stick with them through the hard days, through the good days. You remember them. You have continuity of different sessions with them. You learn them so that you actually know who they are, and they can see that it's not just them that belongs, but it's the whole relationship that you've built belongs. All of the characteristics of them belong, like they just belong. And so you can see why with Stable Moments, we are healing belonging wounds, because Stable Moments is exactly that. We are just showing up and showing kids that they have a place to belong. We are slowly rewriting the narrative that says you have to be something else for you to be accepted here. We're saying, come as you are. We love you as you are, and we're not going anywhere, okay? Literally showing up, like just showing up over and over and over and over again consistently is what makes a kid start to believe, hey, I might belong here. And if they can start to believe, hey, I might belong here, then that can translate out to home, school, and community, and they might understand that they don't always have to fight in whatever way they choose to present it to belong, but that there are people out there that simply think that they belong, know that they belong just for being them. I hope that helps you, and I hope that if you do see some of these qualities in these kids, that I've given you some practical tools that you can use to help heal that belonging wound. But just showing up, like I said, is all we really need to do. All right? Thank you so much for being a big deal in the life of a child. If you want to show our model and help other communities and agencies launch a Stable Moments program, please send this to a church, a community-based org, or a school that you know that could launch a Stable Moments program. You can check out our webinar at stablemoments.com/webinar. And until next time.